All right, everybody. Welcome to today's Presto Sports webinar, talking about the sophomore season of Presto Stats Record Books. We're glad to have you here with us. Running through everything today will be Zach Pace, one of our software engineers and actually the mastermind behind Record Books. So he's got a ton of information for you. Really excited to share all the advances we've made since we launched. So, a little bit about Record Books. We launched last summer, and Zach's going to tell you a little bit more about how we've evolved in the product and kind of where we're going from here. So, we've done a lot in the last year, so we're happy to tell you about that. And just want a quick reminder to everybody. If you have questions, we're going to save those for the end and put all of that in the Q&A. We've disabled the chat, so make sure you put all of your questions in the Q&A section, and I will get those over to Zach. So, Zach, without further ado, go ahead and we can go ahead and get started.
All right, thank you. So, here we go. So last year we rolled out our record book platform, and it was efficient and it allowed you to go ahead and upload the records, go ahead and do that one last summer of all the hard manual labor to go ahead and prep for the future. But what it didn't do is it didn't give you the customization and control that we really wanted to see from the platform going forward. So originally, all you could do really was upload your files. We would generate the report for you. You could export it, but it just had all the stat categories in there. You may not have wanted a category. And then you couldn't filter by minimums, but you could pull from Presto Stats. So that was good. So since we launched though, we've added a lot of features, and this is not all of them. This is just a handful of the highlights. We've added manual additions, game highs, the ability to toggle those fields and the number of positions. And we've also got the ability now to auto update your website if you have a website with us and you're on our 2.0 platform. And then we've added in the minimums, custom text, and overall records. It's just kind of a check to make sure you're um, using the right data. And I went through these kind of fast because we're going to run through them again here in a minute as I walk through each and every one of them. So if we switch over to our live demo, the first thing I want to point out, we added in this little categories drop down. And what this is going to allow is just ability to filter the data you're seeing on the screen from your side. We noticed with some sports, like baseball and softball, for example, they're very stat heavy. So that list could go 30, 40 records and rows deep. And so we wanted to allow quicker being able to find the records you were specifically looking for. So that's why that came into play, where you can filter out your categories. And so, for example, I'm filtering out just pitching. So all my stats in here are just going to be pitching, and we're just going to show, 15 or so right now. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to point your attention to this one here. This is where we're going to spend the next minute or so of our time, is in our fewest losses. When we first rolled out Record Book, all of our categories were just sorting high to low. So if you had a stat where lower is better, such as losses, we could not really account for that. So we've added that ability now to where you can sort and just see your lowest. But with that as well, we also wanted to make sure we supported minimums, which see here we have this badge, and that's going to tell me this field has a minimum on it. So if I hover over, it'll tell me the minimum. And for my test data here, it's a minimum of an inning pitched per team game played, and a minimum of total of 50 innings pitched. So that's the only players we're going to show, and we're going to filter out those that don't meet that criteria. And this prevents the guy who came in mop-up duty, pitched one inning, didn't get a loss. He would previously have showed as your all-time leader for fewest losses. And then the last thing I want to show on this one is the ability to set a note on a category. So for this one here, I put always went to the starting pitcher until 2005. Maybe in the past, you had somebody that was keeping up with the losses and they were just kind of assigning them out however they wanted. A big use case here that we saw was for basketball rebounds. And what would happen is the school would have rebounds going back to say 1975, but they didn't start differentiating offensive and defensive rebounds until the mid 90s. So this is a way where you can kind of add that note to say, hey, I know our data shows it goes back to 1970, but for this stat it only goes back to 2005 or 95, whenever you were starting to actually calculate that data. Or another use would be for if the sport changed, like how many minutes were in the game or quarters. So I know that's another good use case here. We've also added the ability to show when it was last updated and the seasons it covers in your report. And as before, you can download your HTML and PDFs, and all of this minimums kind of data here showing when it was done and your category labels, they're all going to show on those HTML and PDF reports. So that data doesn't go anywhere. And the last thing I want to show is we also support game highs now. So this kind of works the same way. You pull your data in from Presto stats, and we now have game highs where we're going to show our opponent and the date. And this will also pull off the same data. So if you pull the data down from Presto CMS, it will automatically populate all this. If you're uploading a season XML, it is slightly different, and I will cover that in just a second. You have to pull just the game data down. You can't pull just all the data. All right, so if we go over here to manage seasons. Okay, so the first thing I want to note here is this overall records column. We added that in as just another check to make sure you had the latest file when you were uploading your data. So previously we had the last uploaded field, but that didn't necessarily tell you if you used the latest file. You may have accidentally used the file from a week ago instead of the one from the games that finalized last night. So this kind of gives you that extra layer of being able to check and go, okay, we do have the latest file. And the next thing I want to point is if you notice here, I have demo home and demo away, but they're for the same season. We had a case where, say, your school merged in with another school and it caused issues with being able to pull all of your data correctly. So we can now account for that and going back and combining two schools into one if need be for record book purposes. And this also comes into play if you went from NAI to say NCAA. Sometimes you will also have this issue where we need to go in and combine your two records. If you are seeing if you don't see schools and you're like, okay, we had this type of issue, please reach out to us and let us know, and we can get that combined and squared away pretty quickly for you. All right. So if I click here, notice I now have a button to pull event stats only. And this is going to go back to what I was talking about just a minute ago for game highs, where you will enter the data into our CMS system through what we call score sheet entry. And you can just put the one player and their game high stat, and then you would just use the pull event stats only instead of pulling all of the data from Presto stats. But we do still support uploading season XMLs and pulling data if you're statting with us normally. All right, so now if we go in here to manage seasons, I want to point out a few things. The first thing is we have added the ability to edit the team stats. So maybe you uploaded an XML and you only had partial data, you didn't have every game from that season. You can go in here and fill in the missing data. So I clicked on a team that didn't have any data for it, but as you can see here, you could just put in all your data. And this works as well if you don't have any files. We now allow manual entry. So okay, I know my 1998 basketball team scored this many points. You can go in and add that now manually, even if you don't have files. And then piggyback off that as well, if you don't have files, we also support adding new players. So we'll add myself here and give it just a second, and it should generate my player. Yep. And now I can edit my stats as well, the same way I would do for a team, and I can do my seasons or my career stats and just edit and save the stats, and it will calculate them into your records if you don't have the files. And then also, we improved our edit career feature with the ability to go and view seasons before and after. So if you have players that maybe they had a year off for some reason, you can now go back as far as you need to assign those players to being linked to each other. I know that was an issue for some people as well. All right. And now we're going to talk about our settings tab. So this is also brand new, and it's going to have where most of your customization is going to be once you get all of your data set up. This is probably going to be where you're going to spend most of your time. So our first one under general is we have the ability now to customize the sport name. So before we were forcing your record sport names to show, for example, as basketball parentheses women, and maybe you want that to show as women's basketball or women's b-ball. So we can now support that where the custom names. And also, before we forced you to only show 20 players and always show 20 players. So now we allow you to set the number anywhere between 1 and 100 for the sport. So you can go up to 100 or as few as 1. And the reason we allow the lower end is, for example, let's say I know flag football is becoming a more popular sport. Let's say you start up a flag football team, you want to show your records, but you just don't have enough data to fill out 50 or 30 players. So you may want to show a smaller number until you get more seasons to show more data. And then for minimums. So for each sport, we have gone in and defined the minimums. And up here, you're going to see the stat values you can use. And you can set a minimum for both a season and a career, so it can be different. So if you set it for 100 plate appearances for season, you can set it for 400 plate appearances for the career if you would like. And then down here, we show you all of the stats that you have enabled and the minimum that it's going to have with it. So this is a quick way to look and see how your minimums are impacting all of your stats. And then the last one I want to show here is our fields. So this is going to give you the ability to customize your fields. Previously, we showed all the fields that we had, and you did not have the ability to set how you wanted them to show. Now, for every sport, we have a default set, but you can come into this fields tab, and if you want to show who had the lowest at bats for a season, you can do that. You can set the low or the high for every stat we have, and we kind of wanted to give you that control and customization for being able to show it. The same way I mentioned those notes earlier, this is where you would set those as well. So here I have one that it did not start being a stat until a certain year. This is where you would set those notes that would show. And again, those are useful for, you didn't really calculate a stat for the first 20 years of the program. And the last thing I want to show is going back, when you have a Presto 2.0 website with us, you now have the ability to auto push your record book to your website. So you update your record book and it will automatically update your website. No more having to download that file and then go in and re-upload it into the system. We wanted to take that step out for you. And if you do not know if you have a 2.0 website with us, reach out to our team. We will be happy to let you know that information, and if you don't, give you the information to for the upgrade. And the very final thing I want to touch on, if you stat a game with us and when you finalize that game, we will automatically update your record book for you. So if you stat your baseball game this weekend, you finalize the game, it pushes to record book. You have the 2.0 website with us. We auto push back up to your website. The whole process is now done. You did not even have to touch the system. It just went through your normal day process of statting the game, and we automatically were able to update your record book so that the fans can see it in between games. And I think that will do it for our demo. So I will pop it back over for Q&A.
Thank you, Zach. Zach, before I get to the questions that are in the Q&A, which are now starting to come in, um, if you're not using Presto Stats, you're using NCAA Live Stats, something like that, um, you can upload more than just your season XML, right? You can do just game by game and do that as much as you want, correct?
Yes, if you're uploading game by game files, you will need to do it through the CMS admin though.
And we'll
So
get you access to that.
yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, we've got a few questions coming in. First one, will the filters be available slash active in the HTML export so I can upload one HTML file to Presto and fans slash players can sort through pitching, hitting, etc. on their own?
Yes. So I'm just gonna leave it on these so I can pop back between screens. That was probably the better idea.
It's great.
When, when you set the minimums here, it will also include those minimums and the field filters. Sorry, that was a tongue twister. On the HTMLs you export. So it will automatically have that data for you, already filtered out. They won't need to sort through stats that you don't want to show. Like it will not show lowest games played for them, for example.
Perfect. Okay, next question. When adding a player, if I only have stat totals for one or two seasons of their career, but I also have their career totals for 4 years, if I add both of the two individual seasons plus their career totals, does the career total output ignore the seasonal entries, and only use the manually entered career stats?
Yes. So if you manually enter career stats, it will override the season stats for, well, combined season stats, I should say. So if you only have two seasons and they played four, whenever you manually override, it will no longer auto calculate. Now, we do have a button on there that if you override the career stats and then later you find that XML for some reason, you can recalculate and go back to being able to auto update your stats.
Perfect. Um, how does this integrate for schools with a different website provider like Sidearm?
Sure. So what you would do is you would come in here and you would select the report you want, your sport, and then your team. You will not see the team drop down unless you happen to have record book access for multiple teams. But if you do, then you would have to select your team. And then you would just download this HTML file and upload that HTML file into your uh, other website provider.
All right. Let's see. Uh, we love the ability to add individual players and have been doing that for hundreds of players throughout our long history. But will there be an option to edit or delete players soon? Sometimes our staff makes typos or adds athletes to the wrong season and we can't get rid of them.
Yes, that is a feature I am looking into. So that is something I do foresee us adding in the future, is the ability to remove a player if you happen to put them on the wrong season.
Zach, if someone accidentally does that today, is there a way that they can contact support and have that go to development and have someone removed currently?
Uh, mm, you could, yeah, you could. If you added a player incorrectly, you could reach out to our support team, and then they would reach out to me, and I can go in and do it through the file for you.
Cool.
It will be a couple of days delay probably just to get through them, but we can get it removed.
Okay. Um, any idea on a conference option and when that will be available?
So we have not planned out the conference option at this time. It is still a feature we would like to add, but we do need to scope it out better to allow it to integrate correctly and be a well-formed platform versus just a kind of band-aid solution on top. So we're taking some extra time to make it correctly and think of all of the possible scenarios versus just throwing something together to get it out for you.
So easy answer, yes, it's in our development roadmap, but we are still doing some scoping on that. So more to come on that. We hope to
Okay.
have a better answer on that for you as soon as possible. But bear with us while we're still ironing out a few things there.
Yes.
Next question. What sports are included slash excluded from the record books?
So, we support hockey, basketball, field hockey, flag football, football, men's and women's lacrosse, soccer, softball, tennis, volleyball, and water polo at this time. And we can get a list sent over to you as well if you need it for something else to show internally or something.
Perfect.
If you just reach out to our team.
Will you have the ability to add slash remove years manually? For instance, I'm missing 1993 through 1967 for men's basketball, but I don't have an option to add those seasons in record books.
Reach out to our support team and they can get that added for you so that you see those seasons.
Next question. Will we have the ability to manually add individual game files? Most of our basketball game highs occurred over 40 or 50 years ago. I was given a solution to create a game in game day and re-enter the stats for that game. The problem is we don't have a complete box score for those games. Also, when I created slash made up a box score to reflect the game high, it did not update the individual game highs in record books.
So yeah, the that is our solution at this time is to create it in game day. You should be able to just do what we call score sheet mode and just put in the one player and their stats. So you shouldn't have to stat the full game. And then if we go to manage seasons, if you click on the season and then do pull event stats only, that should pull down those event stats. If you've done both of those and it is still not showing, reach out to our support team and they can pass the info along to me and I can take a look for you.
Perfect. In regards to adding older data manually from older seasons not currently on Presto, for which XML files don't exist, does this have to be done one player at a time, or does this method shown allow entire lists of season leaders?
So if you have, yeah, you would have to do it manually one player at a time just to be able to get the stats in there for each one. But you can just put the stats you know, and it's not going to make any impact of difference on the other stats.
Let's see. All right. I think we've reached the end of our questions. I'm still trying to find the Help Center article
Okay.
for automatically updating record books, which I will send that out in an email after this call is over. So if you do have a Presto Sports website and you are on 2.0, I will send that over. If you have any further questions, if you'd like to unmute, Feel free.
Brad, so for a point of clarification on that, like the addition of the record book to my Presto 2.0 site, that part I got down. But like once the game is finalized, Zach, you said it'll automatically update. My experience has been that I have to go into record books, pull from Presto every time, and then it'll update. And I did ask support about that, and they said something to the effect of, well, it's kind of a safeguard so that if there's something that's not quite right when that game's finalized, it doesn't get sent over. So I guess I'm just a little. I feel like I'm getting conflicting messaging on that a little bit. Can you clarify?
Yes, so at the time they were probably correct. This auto update feature was rolled out and working in the last probably 3 weeks to a month, if I had to guess. So it's been fairly recent that we were able to get that working to a confidence that we were okay with being able to update the record book automatically as well.
Okay, so if as we continue through the postseason for basketball here and through the spring, if I'm not seeing that, I should just reach out to support and see if something's stuck somewhere.
Yes. Yeah, just reach out and they'll get the info over so I can take a look.
Okay, thank you.
Hey Brad, I just wanted to jump in on the how to add it to your website. Um,
Yes.
it is just a content type. So you would add a new like record, like you would anything, like you were adding a new page. And if you have record books enabled, record book will show as the content type, and then that'll pull correctly. You do want to make sure you have the correct, it's in your sports folder. So for example, for it to pull men's basketball, you want to make sure it's in the men's basketball sports section on the site. So
And just as Bethany's telling you about it, I got the Help Center article. So that is in the chat. I will still send that out in the email that goes out later today with the recording. Thank you, Bethany. All right. Um, and then we've got a question on cost. So what I will also do is I will get you the email for our sales team. It does depend on the cost is a little bit dependent on what other services you have. But you can take a look at that on our Shop Presto Sports or Shop Presto Sports, right, Bethany? That's the Shopify site.
yes, sorry, I couldn't find unmute fast enough.
Yeah, but you can take a look at it there, but we'll connect you with our sales team and you can talk to them. Um,
If
no,
they have an existing stat subscription, it's best to work with your client success manager. So you don't, because like Brad said, it is kind of dependent on if you're using other services.
I will say the highest it would be $1,000, but that's if you have no other services. So, but your client success manager can get you all squared away and any discounts that would be applied. Further questions?
Hey, Brad and Zach. Thanks for doing this. Zach, my question about the older seasons was kind of further to our previous discussion a few weeks ago. I wasn't sure if what you had shown on screen was a further development from what we had talked about in terms of being able to get that older data online, or it was just the existing situation. So just kind of curious, because you had said you would possibly look into some kind of method to get that data online, whether it was some kind of converter or uploading the way we do with schedules. Have you had a chance to look any further into that?
I have not. It is on my agenda for probably the next week or so, but I have been kind of busy getting this webinar prepped, and then a couple of other high priority items have come in. So I have not. It is on my agenda though. I apologize.
Okay. No, no worries. Does the answer about the way it's currently set up in terms of um, one athlete at a time, does that also apply to like if you've already got a record book let's say in Word and PDF form in a particular sport. So not even season leaders like I was talking about before. Um, is it basically the same answer if the record book sort of already exists to get it in the system? Unless you can create some sort of conversion, it would be one at a time.
Yes, right now it would just be one at a time.
Thank
That
you.
is an area we could look at if there's enough demand and enough use case for it, though.
Thanks.
Let's see. I think that is it.
I have one more niche question that
Yeah,
probably
please.
doesn't apply to a lot of people, but um, with the ability to download it as a PDF, we were thinking it could be cool to um, expand the number field all the way past the 100 size cap. So that way it would show every player who had ever played, and then we could take those PDFs and make them a physical book, and then update that annually. So is that 100 size cap for a specific reason, or is that going to be able to expand to show everyone who's ever played, and even all those strange stats that sometimes you don't want everyone to see?
Zach, that's more of career stats, which is a different deal, right?
Yes and no. I mean, I guess you could show every single individual season, but at this time, I don't foresee that, but that is something we could look in the future at revisiting as
Yeah,
well.
I can follow up on that. When we initially concepted record books, it was directly for that to have a cap of people because it is exactly what it's called, a record book, having the top 10, top 20, top 30. We expanded it to top 100, but what I think is being described is more of a career stats. So having every single player that's ever played and having that be searchable, that's really kind of a different deal altogether. Once you get into that, then your load times really extend, and that's something that we're going to have to look at in a different way. So I don't know that that's ever going to be included directly in record books, but it may be included down the road in something else. It is something we are looking at, though.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Okay. All right. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. Zach, thank you for walking us all through it. I will be sending out the recording a little bit later today. And if you have any further questions, feel free to let us know. Again, thanks a lot. Have a great day.